Our first contestant is Robert Meyer. Bob, can you see me and hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, can you see the timing device, timing
Yes,
panel? All right, thank you. Bob Meyer, getting ready for the other side. Getting ready for the other side. Bob Meyer.
2020, what a year. It began with some outstanding news with my granddaughter being born and my wife receiving a liver transplant. Then we were introduced to the pandemic, Dr. Anthony Fauci, and masks. COVID hit, social distancing. Life changed for us significantly. Zoom, Skype, FaceTime, Facebooks. Each of these devices provided methods for us to stay close while maintaining a proper social distance of states, sometimes as far as across the United States. My grandson in Florida and his mom and dad have all been focused on helping for him to become an Eagle Scout. We had a FaceTime visit, and during it, he said, "Grandpa, would you like to come to Florida? Mom, my sister and I are all going to go and get scuba certified." Scuba certified. That's a SCUBA, stands for self-contained underwater breathing apparatus. And it's a tank you put on your back. And it's a great way to maintain social distancing. You're wearing a mask the entire time. But to get there, I have to fly to Florida. Not happening. Airplanes, airlines, airports, not ready for prime time for Grandpa. I'm sorry. As I said, my wife had a liver transplant. So, move forward to where I have a phone call from another family friend who says, "Would you like to go and stay in Naples?" Naples, Florida. My wife reminded me about the scuba experience that my grandson had. And I checked. I called Scuba Marco on Marco Island. They suggested that I arrange to come on down. And I did. Now there is preparation. Times have changed significantly from back in the day. Back in the day, you'd spend a week in a classroom. Not now. Nowadays, what you do is you use electronics and go online. And with the online tools that you have, you can attend the classes and take the test for preparation. I did that. I went through rigorous training online, including watching videos and answering the preset tests. At the end of the day, I was almost done when we left and headed for Florida. In fact, as my wife drove through Kentucky, I was watching video training and I completed the tests with time to spare, I might add. We arrived on a Saturday, spent Sunday with friends, and on Monday morning, I went to Scuba Marco on Marco Island. I met John. John suggested that I make sure that I was prepared, and I did. He gave me tests throughout the morning, written tests, and quizzed me on the different aspects of the scuba equipment. Then he said, "You're ready." I said, "Ready. I'm ready for the other side. Let's head it. We're headed for the ocean." "Nope." "The sea?" "Nope." "The bay? It's right outside the window." "No, you're going to do a closed water dive." Closed water dive is going to be in a pool. In fact, right behind them, there was a condominium with a pool that they had access to. So we hit it. We hit the pool, and I said, "Okay, ready to put on the gear." He said, "No, first you're going to prepare with tests for your swimming and your floating." "Sure, no problem." 20 laps, 10 back, 10 forth. And for the next few minutes, I swam back and forth, back and forth. 20 laps, no problem. Check. Next up was the floating. I'm very comfortable in the water. I lay back and I counted. I counted the rungs on the condominium above me. There's 116, but since there's 4 floors and a certain amount on each of them, I was just doing the math. After the prescribed period of time, John said, "You look good. Wake up." I said, "Great." And I spurred out 116. He asked me what it was. And when I explained it, he said, "I was wondering what you were doing." At that point, we got out of the water and put on all the equipment. Some of it he had prepared in advance that I was not aware of. But that's the end of the story. I put on the equipment with the fins, and we went underwater for the rest of the day. And I was exhausted when I got home. The next morning, we went through the morning experiences, and he tested me throughout. And at the end of the morning, I said, "John, how am I doing?" He said, "You're good, but you're not there." I said, "What do you mean I'm not there?" He said, "Bob, you don't know how to use your fins, and that's critical." I said, "John, what do you mean I'm not ready with my fins?" His answer, "You are moving your legs like you're bicycling. Bicycling like this is not the same as using your fins in a wave motion. So what do you what do you suggest that I do, John?" John said, "We're going to get you some fins and you're going to go home and practice." And I did. Walt Disney once said, "If you have a dream, you can make it happen." I have to tell you, I'm 63 years old, and I grew up first with training wheels and then with the bicycle. It's hard to teach an old dog new tricks, but if I can do it, you can do it. So for the rest of the trip, my wife and I had a wonderful experience. We went to the Everglades. We went on all sorts of experiences. And then we drove home. After that, the next part was to travel back to Ohio and sign up for LA Fitness. With LA Fitness, I exchanged my mask that I use for COVID for a mask that you use for scuba. And I have a wonderful time. You too can do it. Prepare and get ready for the other side. Mr. Contest Chair.
We could have the timer record 1 minute of silence while the judges mark their ballots. Andy Forrester. Andy, can you see and hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, I can see and hear you. Can you see the timing tile?
Yes, I can.
Okay. Andy Forrester, shipwrecked at the North Pole. Shipwrecked at the North Pole, Andy Forrester.
Captain to the bridge! Captain to the bridge! Oh, those aren't words you want to hear on a Navy nuclear-powered submarine. But what could go wrong? It's 1984. We're surfaced through an opening in the ice called a polynya up at the North Pole. We have people on the barren white ice ashore doing top secret things. There's nobody around for thousands of miles that we know of. What could it be? It turned out that a hard wind had blown up and knocked an iceberg down on the front of the submarine. Now, the front of a submarine is fiberglass. It's not steel like the rest of the hull. And behind that fiberglass is some water and then a spherical hydrophone array. That's part of our main sonar suite. It had broken, cracked that sonar dome. And we weren't sure if we would be able to submerge and transit back out under the ice, which was the only way out. We found ourselves shipwrecked at the North Pole. Fellow Toastmasters, I didn't realize that as a 24-year-old lieutenant junior grade, I was going to get a huge lesson on innovation. Two movies now come to mind as I tell this story. One is Titanic, where we learned that icebergs and iron ships don't go well together. The second is Apollo 13. Houston, we have a problem. Well, we had a problem, but we couldn't call Houston. We couldn't call anybody. Two reasons. One, radios don't work that well that far north. And two, transmitting on that radio is like a beacon for every other Russian submarine out there during this height of the Cold War. What could we do? The captain's in charge of the ship. He didn't have an answer. There was no procedure for this. There are just some things you can't plan for. He called everybody together. I think that was a wise thing in retrospect. He said, men, I don't have the answer to this. Let's think about this together. He's got 120 people who were well-schooled and creative and pretty engaged at that point in finding a solution. Several things came up, but they all had to work together. One, the machinist mates found some epoxy pipe patching compound that we could mix up and use like Super Bondo. We had a pretty good amount of that on board. The problem was they knew that it wouldn't cure at the sub-zero temperatures at the North Pole. The cooks of all people came up with the answer to that. They said, we've got these food heaters. We put trays of food in the galley, and we've already checked they'll fit up through the hatch, and we can invert those over the epoxy and use the heating elements to bake that epoxy and get it to cure. But we don't have anything to plug it into up there. There's no electrical outlets topside. The electricians had the answer to that. They had cables. They knew where all the power was throughout the ship. They knew where they could tap in and bring power up to those heating tables. The sonar techs had an idea for how they could get in behind the fiberglass to pack epoxy in from the backside. They found a pump that would pump the water out that's behind that sonar dome, raising the bow of the ship, letting people down in there to pack in epoxy. The last group was a group of officers and quartermasters who figured out some alternate procedures for submerging and getting underway, with the concern being that if the repair didn't hold, that fiberglass would peel off like the peeling of an overripe banana and potentially let water into the ship, and we'd sink like a rock, never to be heard of again. It took almost a full day for all of those pieces to come together, for the water to be pumped out, the epoxy to be mixed and put in and cured, and then the dome filled back with water so we could submerge the ship. And then we got underway. And we transited out slowly at first with everybody listening for sounds of cracks and leaking and flooding. But when we heard nothing, we sped up more and more and more. And finally, after a week and a half, we made it back to the nearest dry dock in Holy Loch, Scotland. And there we could put the submarine up, pump the water out from around it. The submarine would sit on blocks. Experts had flown in from the United States who could walk around and evaluate the structural integrity. Their opinion was that that was a rock solid repair and nothing else was needed in the immediate future. It could wait till the next overhaul. We filled the dry dock back up with water, got underway, went right back to the North Pole and finished our mission. Fellow Toastmasters, there's a lot to learn from this. If you feel like as a leader you have to have all the answers, clearly not the case here. In fact, what I learned was the idea of empowering and engaging a team so that their collective wisdom and insight could come up with all the parts and pieces we would need for a great solution. What intractable problem are you dealing with right now that if you fully engaged the people around you with all of their skill and experience, you would find that solution? Maybe in your family, at work, maybe in your Toastmasters club. That's what you can learn from this. Thank you, fellow Toastmasters.
The timer could put a minute while the judges mark their balance. Christopher, can you see and hear me?
I can.
Good. Can you see the timing tile?
I can.
Christopher Owen. Getting back on my feet. Getting back on my feet. Christopher Owen.
I remember September 20th, 2020 as a crisp, sunny fall day, only I was in the shadows under the canopy of the Pisgah National Forest in the Appalachian Mountains of North Carolina. It was approximately 11 a.m. that morning, and I just leaned the Kawasaki into a blind corner, unaware of the deep patch of gravel waiting just a few feet ahead. And in a split second, I found myself flying in a most ungraceful manner, having been flung off of my motorcycle, vividly remembering the first thought was, that helmet just saved my life. My second thought, I better get off this road before someone comes around that corner and runs over my legs. And my third concern, as I was dragging my injured body to the side of the road in the safety of the guardrail, darn, I have too much work I want to accomplish this week. Yes, I actually did say that in the moments after the wreck. Now you may be thinking, Christopher, you just had a life-altering motorcycle accident and you're worried about getting back to work? Well, yes, I was. Now, I'm not a workaholic, I can assure you that, but I was as excited to return back to Southwestern Ohio to my career as I was going to that 3-day motorcycle excursion down in North Carolina. You see, I was looking forward to seeing my clients again, the ones I had already contacted. We had planned to meet that week. I had business to conduct with them. I was excited to list their properties. I was truly, I know this may sound crazy, I was truly enjoying my occupation in spite of a pandemic year. And I was excited to continue that momentum. Oddly enough, 2020 didn't start out this way, but it became a very motivating year for me. I was seeing my goals inch closer to fulfillment. We all have goals, and I had business goals and personal goals. And having this year that I was having was greatly encouraging. Through the shock and the obvious trauma of what just took place down there on that highway, my thoughts turned to, would I be able to follow up in the days, weeks, and months ahead? Thankfully, I was able to follow up. I will tell you that it took every ounce of stamina I had to finish out the year. And I had excellent help. Another agent in the office came alongside me, and we worked together on some of the business I already had planned for the rest of the year. And I'm grateful for that help. But now that 2020 is past and behind us, and when I wrote this speech originally, I was at the beginning of 2021. My thoughts were then, how strong is my motivation? And this has been my present concern since the beginning of this year. Can I pick up from where I was at on September 19th of 2020, before the accident? True, there has been quite a few injuries I had to deal with. And then there was a delayed surgery on my broken foot because they couldn't take care of it right away. And that drew things out a little bit longer as well. And the reality started to hit me last winter. I could tell it. My physical, spiritual, and emotional well-being had taken a hit. The magnitude of what happened. And when I wake up in the morning, I usually thank the Lord for the day and what's going to go on, even before I open my eyes. And it was an indicator for me during this past winter season that the energy that I had before, it was starting to be consumed quickly. I dealt with the pain, the lack of mobility, the drugs. All these work to take out the exuberance that had pepped me up prior to the wreck. And then I hit the new year. A new beginning, I should say. And I should probably give a subtitle to this speech as a new beginning, because I needed a fresh starting point. I wanted again to be as excited for this year as I was for last year, for gaining physical strength again and emotional well-being, for walking again on both feet, and living life as I enjoy living it. Yet you may know, as I do, that there's always a divide between the things that we want to accomplish and the action it takes to get there, because it takes a lot of effort. Have you ever been nudged, urged either by yourself or by others to do what you know would benefit yourself and hopefully those other people around you? You're just not quite sure you're ready or willing to expend the energy it takes to commit to the task? And this is where I have been at. But I will confess, I have been nudged and I have been urged. You see, there is a very new member in our group and our Toastmasters Club in Oxford. Her name was Candy Bennett. She joined our officers meeting at the very beginning of January. She wasn't even a member yet when she came into our officers meeting, because she was so excited about the inner workings of our club. She wanted to come and see every bit of what was going on. And during that meeting, Candy said something I thought was very pertinent. It was for me. She said something like this. She recognized that Toastmasters is inexpensive enough to walk away from, much like a gym membership at the beginning of a year. But then she said, wouldn't it be better if we get our money's worth out of this club? How insightful. That was an honest wake-up call to me, a call to action. Yes, I had joined Toastmasters to fulfill life's ambitions, wanting to become a better speaker and a better communicator, a better leader, a better businessman, a better father, maybe even a better friend. Now, unbeknownst to Candy, I was backed into a corner, so to speak. Do I take the challenge, put my thoughts on paper and translate them into a speech, and utilize my past Toastmasters experience to assist in my new beginning that I needed to make? Or do I quietly walk away from the very thing that I wanted to accomplish in the first place? So yes, it would be great to get my money's worth out of the Toastmasters Club and to allow my local club and international clubs to help me put my want back into action, bring my commitment back up to the surface, and become enthusiastic again. So what have I done since the beginning of 2021 to see my goals work toward their fruition? Well, I started signing up for speaking roles again in our local club. I initiated physical therapy for better physical mobility. And I've taken on responsibilities recently to push myself, mainly public speaking in the form of auctions, and push my physical boundaries too. And I'm listing more of those as I go along. Accidents will come in our lives. We don't want them, but unfortunately they come. They derail us many times from the positive directions we're on. But I want to choose, and hopefully you do too, as soon as we possibly can when these things happen, to get back on our feet, embrace our new beginnings for our benefit and for everyone around us, and see our goals come to fruition. And maybe we can have 2021 be our best year yet.
Have a minute of silence while the judges mark their ballots. Actually, we could move the contestants now to the helpers.
We're not done yet, Kevin.
We have
All right.
David.
That's one more speaker. Have a minute of silence while the judges mark their ballots. Hi, David. Can you see me and hear me?
I can see you and hear you.
Can you see the timing panel?
I sure can.
David Levy, the perfect gift. The perfect gift, David Levy.
I'm opening a package. I'm in college and it's from home, so this is a treat. But what's inside is not what I would expect. It's not something my parents normally think I need, like food or clothing or a Jewish girlfriend. No, it's a gift. And for no reason. Just we saw this, thought of you, and so here it is, kind of gift. And what it is a rubber arm with a motor inside, so when you turn it on, the fingers move. There's not a lot you can do with a motorized rubber arm, but one thing I delight in doing is putting it under the couch with the moving fingers sticking out to scare any unsuspecting visitors. But what I do with it even more is show it to my friends and say, isn't this hilarious? My parents sent me this. I feel like they really get me. It was a perfect gift. Fellow Toastmasters, honored guests, have you ever contemplated what makes a gift perfect? Probably not, right? Who does that? And yet, if you're like me, when it's time to buy a gift, you strive for something perfect and then settle for satisfactory. Well, friends, those days are over because I have contemplated what it takes, and I'm here to tell you that getting someone a perfect gift does not have to be the stress-packed, expensive, end-of-relationship threatening endeavor you fear it might be. All you have to do is remember the three letters VBU. It's a terrible acronym, I know, but maybe this will help you remember it. VBU! Whatever works. But what does it stand for? Well, V is for validating. Any gift that says, I support you, I believe in you, I don't know how to use TikTok, but if you have a newsletter, I'd like to subscribe to that. That is validating, and that is a perfect gift. Long ago, about 10 years, 11 years, when my relationship with my better half, Jennifer, is just beginning, she turns 40. It's a huge responsibility for a new boyfriend, but with a little help, I gather up the contact information of everyone she holds dear. I create a place for them to leave recorded birthday greetings, and I edit those together into one glorious message. And on Jen's big day, I sit her down and play it for her. And I watch as the look of interest on her face as she's listening to my voice and my son's voice turns to astonishment when she hears her parents, her sisters, her closest friends. And then Jen's jaw drops when she realizes that there are easily 100 different people from her life, from near and far, on this recording. That's when I know I have given Jen a perfect gift. It was validating. It says, you must be on the right path, Jennifer, to have accumulated so many people in your life, so excited to wish you a happy birthday. V, validating. Then there's B, which stands for belonging. Any gift which says, you are welcome. I'm glad you're here. help yourself to anything in the fridge. That suggests belonging, and that is a perfect gift. Further along, as Jen's and my relationship matures, she begins to question whether there's room for her in the family that already contains me and my young son. Then one day I'm out shopping and I see these beautiful handcrafted orange juice glasses and I get an idea. I pick the 3 best and I give them to Jennifer as a gift. And she likes them, they are pretty after all. But I could see she's thinking, why is he giving me a gift? And why are there only 3 glasses? And that's when I tell her, 1 for each of us. And Jen's jaw drops again. She understands their meaning. They mean you belong. I think of we, the 3 of us, as a family. B, belonging. And finally, U stands for understanding. Any gift that says, I see you, I get you, I'm picking up what you're putting down. That demonstrates belonging, and that is a perfect gift. The rubber arm my parents sent me in college qualifies. And with October of 2020 approaching, I know I need to get Jen a perfect gift to celebrate 11 years of us being together. I go online and look up what commemorates an 11-year anniversary and see that it is steel and turquoise. So on the big night, I sit Jen down and I present her with a steel-lined turquoise-colored water jug. Happy anniversary! And yes, Jen's jaw drops, but not for a good reason. I tried to tell her she could use it for yoga, but that only gets me further into the downward-facing doghouse. I do manage to save the situation, however, when I present Jen with this velvet box, inside of which is my mother's engagement ring, and ask Jen to wear it and to be my wife. She says yes. Perfect. Because it's a big moment, sure, but it also demonstrated understanding. I understood Jen well enough to know she was expecting a ring that night, and yet I still managed to surprise her with it by distracting her with a decoy gift. You, understanding. Now, friends, I know I've been patting myself on the back a lot here today, which, by the way, if I still had that rubber arm, is something else I could do with it. But I am 52 years old, and those are all of the perfect gifts I have ever given out. But now that I know that what made them perfect was Vaboo, I can strive to give perfect gifts to the people I hold dear forevermore. And you can too. But here's the thing. Giving someone a perfect gift is nice. But the real gift is how it strengthens your relationship and creates connection. And let's face it, after a year of lockdown, most of us are ready for a little more connection. Validating, belonging, understanding. VBU. If you could remember these 3 letters, then rubber arm or not, you'll be able to pat yourself on the back for all the jaw-droppingly perfect gifts that you'll be giving out forevermore. Mr. Contest Chair.
We could have the Zoom master move the officiants into the officiant room. Please let me know when that's done.
All but one has been removed. Has been moved. Let me reach out. Hi, Lila. Are you still out there? Hi. We're okay now, Ms. Contest Chair.
Thank you, Michael. Well, let's get to know our contestants. That was a great contest, wasn't it? Let's give them applause. First, Robert Meyer. Bob, could you turn your camera on, please? Hi, Bob. Tell us, what club are you representing? How long have you been a Toastmaster, and how the program keeps helping you? You're on mute.
There we go. Let's go this way. So I've been a Toastmaster for going on 18 years. Last year, I finished my second BTM, and I've been with CIC Speaks 2 for part of it, and I started with CIC Speaks, both of which are with Cincinnati insurance companies.
Wonderful.
And
So,
I keep on growing because of the skills and abilities that it gives me.
Right. It sounds like you are quite a person for adventure. Tell us what, besides the scuba diving, was that one of your biggest challenges when it comes to doing something new?
Oh no, I would say by no reach. Started off with, did the Appalachian Trail with my son a few years back. Worked on a doctorate, and that took over a decade.
Mhm.
Worked with, like I said, Cincinnati Insurance and with several other organizations over the last few decades. It's been everything I do has an objective of learning and sharing and growing. And so Toastmasters mixes into it.
Wonderful. All right, Bob. Thanks for your congratulations on being in the contest, and good luck at the end.
Thank you.
Andrew Forrester. Thank you. Where's Robert? There's Andrew.
Hey,
Hi,
Kevin.
Andy.
Hi.
So tell us about your club and how long you've been a Toastmaster.
I am a member of the Cincinnati Communicators Club, which is down in the Westchester area, pre-Zoom. Now it's all electronic, of course. And I've been a member for about 1.5 years.
Okay. So tell us about the that experience you had with the submarine. Now, how long were you in submarines?
I served on active duty from when I graduated from the Naval Academy in 1981 until 1988. And so the normal progression there is there's about a 2-year training pipeline. So this is after getting an engineering degree. There's nuclear power school, the prototype, submarine school, a 3-year tour on the Grayling, which is, that experience was one of many. I spent 2 more years on active duty at the Pentagon, and then I left active duty. I stayed in the reserves, but that's when I left the Navy. Active duty, yeah.
Well, that was quite a story. Tell us about the most exotic place that, in your mind, that you have traveled to.
Well, I always, when I'm playing that game and I get to know you at a party, it's always like the North Pole, because who's been there? It serves to set you apart. But we went to other places. We did Mediterranean deployments. I've been to Israel, spent a lot of time in Italy, been to some other places around the Med. North Europe. We got to pull into Norway once. That was kind of interesting. And then in my civilian career, I've been all over the place to Asia. Interesting, the one continent I haven't been to is South America. I've never been further south than Mexico, which seems a little odd.
Right. Andy, well, thank you for your service to our country. Next, I'd like to speak to Christopher Owen. Hi, Christopher. Tell us about the club you belong to and how long you've been a Toastmaster.
Hi, Kevin. I've been in Toastmasters from the very beginning of the Oxford Toastmasters Club for about 8 years. It's been a good experience.
And it says that you like shooting, hunting, dancing, hiking, and motorcycles to an extent. So, is there a particular season you go hunting or a particular animal, or do you go mostly year round?
It's particular season, cool weather mainly. And I was raised on a farm, and then had children myself. When they were young, we raised animals, and then we would go hunting for our meat, and mainly deer. And that's one of the enjoyments we've had, and something I still do with some of my kids, even though they're adults now.
And that includes being on a farm, hunting for the particular varmint from time to time.
From time to time as well, yes. Sometimes coyotes can be very troublesome for livestock and detrimental that way. So,
right. Well, Chris, thank you for your congratulations on being in the contest today, and good luck at the end.
thank you.
And last but not least, David Levy.
How you doing, Kevin?
Hi, David. So you've been a Toastmaster for a while. Tell us about how long you've been a Toastmaster and what you enjoy about your experience.
Well, I joined in 2010. I had visited once and liked what I saw, but I didn't think that there was a need in my life for public speaking, and so I wasn't rushing to join. And then I took an interest in storytelling, and I wanted to try that. And so I thought that if I joined Toastmasters, I could practice that in front of the meetings, working on speeches. And I joined for that reason. But since then, I have just gotten so much more out of it. I was a fearful public speaker for a long time, had the shakes, all those things. That's mostly gone. I have really learned a lot about speechcraft. These competitions are a lot of fun. I mean, it took me to Malaysia once. A friend of mine thinks of me enough as a raconteur. They had invited me to do his wedding in Rome. So that was like an opportunity that never would have happened. And it just never stops. And the people that I meet along the way, and now especially with so many meetings online, I'm meeting so many more people internationally, it just never stops giving.
So David, tell us about True Theater. Was that a culmination of a lifetime dream, or was it an opportunity that just fell in your lap?
I was interested in producing a storytelling show like True Theater, and a friend of mine kind of helped push me over the edge to get it started. What also helped was that I had been in Toastmasters by that point for several months, and I could see how what I was learning about speech evaluations would help me as a speech coach, as a story coach for, there's overlap, and then there's things that's not quite the same. I think it's hard to define sometimes, but I knew that one would help the other along the way. And so we started, my friend and I, knowing that we had more to learn, and we just sort of learned on it during the process. But when I go back to my childhood, I can remember specific things in my life that had a lot to do with storytelling that, for whatever reason, stand out to me from my memory. So I think I always had an interest for a long time, but once I had this specific idea about starting this thing, I realized that I had a real passion for.
Wow, that's amazing. All right, David, yeah, congratulations for being in the contest, and
Thanks.
good luck at the end.
Thank you.
Let's see. Right now, do we have, we could take about a 5-minute break. Do we have, are the judges back with the results?
They are not back yet.
Okay,
Harry is back, but they are not back.
ladies and gentlemen, let's take a break. We'll reconvene at 2:45.